That was, I mean, I loved it. We loved it. We worked so well together. We had so much fun. And it really kept us closer longer than I really wanted.
At 79, Cher is breaking her silence like never before. She hints at secret encounters, undeniable temptation, and moments that left even her stunned. For decades, fans have wondered about the private side of this music legend, and now she's teasing the truth. What she's about to reveal is shocking, glamorous, and utterly unpredictable. Enough to make hearts race and imaginations run wild. Cher's surprising revelation. Cher is Hollywood royalty, a living legend who has spent decades commanding the stage and the screen with unmatched presence. At 79, she still captivates audiences not just with her voice, but with her fearless honesty. In a recent interview, she was asked a question that few would dare. After performing with so many musical icons, which singers tempted her the most? Cher leaned back, a mischievous sparkle in her eye, and declared she no longer cared about keeping secrets. She admitted she had always behaved, mostly, but there were 7 men whose presence made her consider doing a whole lot more than singing. The story of Cher's love life has always fascinated fans. In a 2010 interview on The Late Show with David Letterman, she revealed past relationships with Warren Beatty, Tom Cruise, and Gene Simmons, and she admitted a one-time encounter with Eric Clapton. Years later, in 2024, she explained why she often dates younger men. In her words, men her own age or older were mostly gone, and historically, older men had often been intimidated by her bold personality. Cher also recalled a book talk in 2023 when she admitted that if Michael McDonald had sung to her, she would have gone out with him for his voice. One of her most famous relationships was with Gene Simmons of Kiss in the late 1970s. Cher described it as the best relationship I've ever had with a human being. Yet she was honest about its complexity. Though their bond was deep, it was not strictly monogamous. She admitted she sometimes saw others simply for companionship. Cher's honesty has always been part of her allure. She is unafraid to reveal that even someone as disciplined and talented as her can experience desires that are hard to resist. Cher defines these experiences as temptations that crawl under your skin while under the spotlight. She explains it as the kind of feeling where you think, if I don't walk off this stage right now, I might not walk off it alone. She promises to reveal the 7 men she would have gladly broken every rule for. She hints that the 5th and 7th names on her list are shocking, even scandalous. The first name she mentions is a man of pure, raw energy. Every performance was described as foreplay with a microphone, and he easily topped her list of magnificent sins, Tom Jones. Cher first encountered Tom Jones during the height of their Vegas days, when both were headlining shows that packed casinos night after night. Rumor has it that their meetings were frequent backstage and at after-parties. Moments that were supposed to be casual, but carried an unmistakable electricity. According to insiders, there was an instant awareness between them, a silent recognition of mutual allure that went beyond the stage lights. Tom Jones, they say, was irresistible. His voice was described as velvet dipped in whiskey, deep, husky, and intoxicating, while his physical presence added to the allure. He was all chest hair and hips, every move charged with confidence and raw energy. Watching him perform was, according to whispers among Vegas insiders, foreplay with a microphone. Cher admitted in private circles that his gaze could undress you one piece at a time right there in the middle of a Vegas casino, and that she would have let him do just that. The secret fantasy between them became a whispered legend in Hollywood. Backstage, she imagined what his famous Welsh growl would feel like pressed against her neck at 3 in the morning. Rumor has it that Cher, ever the bold and untamed spirit, confessed privately that had Tom ever knocked on her hotel door, she would have locked it behind us and thrown away the key. Insiders described him as the very personification of sin in tight trousers, someone who could ignite desire with a glance and a note. Yet Cher's fascination was not just physical. There was a magnetic tension, an unspoken understanding that their chemistry could have led them anywhere if circumstances allowed. She admired his audacity and the raw energy he brought to every performance, and it lingered in her imagination long after the shows ended. The rumors paint Tom Jones as a man of temptation, a figure who could make even the most disciplined star feel dangerously alive. If he was velvet and whiskey, the next artist on Cher's list was said to be pure, dangerous fire. A man whose hypnotic eyes could make her feel like the only woman alive, forcing her to admit that, when he offered tender, she absolutely chose wild. Elvis Presley. Cher and Elvis Presley reportedly first crossed paths in the late 1960s, a time when both were at very different points in their careers. Cher was rising as part of the duo Sunny, and Cher capturing attention with her powerful voice and unique style. Elvis, already the king of rock and roll, was established as an icon, with fans across the globe. Their first meeting is said to have happened backstage at a television studio in Los Angeles, where Elvis was filming one of his specials. According to some accounts, the encounter was brief but memorable. Cher was starstruck, but also confident, carrying the kind of charisma that could hold its own even in front of a legend. Elvis reportedly greeted her warmly, intrigued by her bold presence and distinctive voice. Cher later admitted she was too nervous, intimidated by his larger-than-life reputation and the crowds of people surrounding him. She confessed in private circles that she wished she had said yes, leaving a haunting "what if" lingering in her memory. Some insiders whisper that backstage, even without the date, she could feel the pulse of his presence. She would hear his voice, catch a glimpse of his movements, and experience the tension of a moment that never truly came to be. Rumor has it that the meeting sparked a mutual admiration rather than a romantic connection. Cher has, in interviews over the years, hinted at her fascination with Elvis, the way he moved, his stage presence, and the sheer magnetism he carried. Likewise, Elvis was said to appreciate Cher's talent and her fearless approach to music and style, qualities that set her apart from many contemporaries. There were also whispers of other encounters at Hollywood parties and music events, where they would exchange friendly words and compliments. But these meetings remained more about respect and charm than a sustained personal relationship. Cher often describes these moments with a mix of nostalgia and awe, emphasizing Elvis's larger-than-life persona. There was something about Elvis that combined allure with danger. He was Southern charm and bad boy sin rolled into one. When he sang "Love Me Tender," Cher admitted she did not want tenderness. She wanted wild. His low growl, his every note, was enough to make her forget everything she ever knew about music, about control, about herself. Rumors suggest that just being near him created an electricity that lingered long after he left the room. A temptation that was thrilling but untouchable. After the contained danger of Elvis, Cher's moves to the next artist, a man who was chaos in leather pants. He was described as dirty gasoline just waiting for a spark. A singer whose presence promised destruction. A challenge to see what it felt like to be completely wrecked by him. Mick Jagger. Cher and Mick Jagger's story is less about official dates and more about wild electric encounters in the glittering chaos of the 1970s rock scene. Known for her fearless persona and magnetic presence, Cher was no stranger to Hollywood parties, music studios, and high-profile events. Mick Jagger, meanwhile, was the embodiment of rock and roll rebellion, chaotic, magnetic, and notoriously irresistible. When their worlds collided, it was a meeting that left whispers in its wake. The first encounter between Cher and Mick is rumored to have happened at one of the legendary Hollywood parties of the early 70s. Cher, already famous as part of Sonny and Cher, was dazzling everyone with her voice, style, and undeniable charisma. Mick, touring the US with the Rolling Stones and living the rock star life to its extreme, was exactly the kind of danger and thrill that fascinated Cher. According to her own recollections and the stories circulating in Hollywood circles, the moment was charged with instant recognition. They saw in each other a spark that neither could ignore. Cher has often described Mick as chaos in leather pants and unforgettable in every sense. She couldn't help but notice the lips, the strut, and the way he moved, almost as if desire itself had taken possession of him. There was an allure to his recklessness, a magnetic energy that drew her in despite the madness surrounding him. Their encounters were said to happen in private corners of parties, late-night events, and exclusive gatherings, moments that were fleeting but intense. Though details remain vague, rumors suggest their connection was more than casual admiration. Hollywood insiders whispered about stolen glances, flirtatious conversations, and an undeniable chemistry that hinted at a short-lived romantic spark. Cher herself has acknowledged that there were men in her life who stirred temptation and desire, and Mick was one of them, someone who awakened curiosity and excitement beyond the ordinary. Their relationship, if it could even be called that, was never public or formal. It was the kind of Hollywood romance that thrived in whispers and rumors, in private jokes and shared moments that the world would only catch glimpses of. What made their encounters memorable wasn't just the physical attraction, but the collision of two larger-than-life personalities, each accustomed to being the center of attention, yet equally intrigued by someone who could match their intensity. Then comes David Bowie. Cher first encountered David Bowie in 1975 when he appeared on her CBS TV show. Rumors say that from the moment he walked onto the set, the air changed. Bowie was a presence unlike any other, a mix of mystery, danger, and beauty that seemed almost alien. They performed a duet of Can You Hear Me and a medley including Fame, and insiders claim the chemistry between them was electric. Bowie's later recollections describe Cher as this long, tall bird with black hair, very piercing eyes, and he admitted he was probably out of my gourd at the time. Cher herself reportedly confessed years later to having a tiny crush on him. David Bowie was temptation wrapped in stardust. He carried an androgynous charm that was both beautiful and dangerous, a presence that could unsettle and enthrall at the same time. His voice, described as half velvet, half electric shock, had a way of making her feel chosen for something secret and sinful. Behind the camera, backstage, and during rehearsals, every movement he made seemed calculated to draw attention and stir desire. Even a light brush past him during practice felt like a lightning strike, a moment that lingered long after the cameras stopped rolling. There was a fluidity to Bowie that was irresistible. Rumors among insiders describe him as seduction in colors you didn't even know existed. His mismatched eyes seemed to question her, daring her to choose between two conflicting desires. Let him ruin her lipstick or steal her soul. The allure was more than physical. It was cosmic, intoxicating, and impossible to resist. Cher admitted that had he asked her to leave the studio and follow him, she would have gone. No hesitation. Bowie's temptation was unlike any other. He was stardust, celestial, a beautiful danger that hovered just out of reach, yet demanded attention. He made her feel as if the ordinary rules of attraction did not apply. That desire could be pure, wild, and transformative all at once. The next artist, Cher mentioned, had a voice that could turn any song into a dirty proposition, complete with a signature rooster strut that promised whiskey, trouble, and an unforgettable spin. Rod Stewart. Cher met Rod Stewart during the wild music scene of the 1970s. Insiders say Rod had an energy that was impossible to ignore. Rod Stewart, it seems, was playful in a way that was dangerous. He represented raw fun, a temptation that was both irresistible and unpredictable. Cher often recounted in private circles how his flirtation was effortless, like it was a natural extension of his breath. At that infamous LA party, he leaned in close, smelling of whiskey and trouble, whispering in his gravelly voice something that caused Cher to blush, a rare reaction for someone usually unshakable. Rumor has it that the intensity of that moment was electric, a flirtation that could have turned into a night neither of them would have walked away from before sunrise. The attraction was not subtle. Rod exuded a kind of reckless charm that made desire feel immediate and dangerous. Every glance, every movement, suggested he thrived on bending rules and tempting those around him. Insiders whisper that his energy was contagious, drawing in anyone daring enough to match it. And Cher was no exception. His presence was a mix of humor, thrill, and risk. A combination that promised fun, but left the consequences uncertain. Rod Stewart's temptation was loud, playful, and undeniable, the kind that left memories both thrilling and chaotic. He was a whirlwind of raspy charm and roguish confidence, the kind of energy that made normal rules of caution seem irrelevant. After the noisy fun of Rod Stewart, Cher's focus narrows on a temptation characterized by profound restraint. This pure silk artist was so beautiful that it almost hurt to look at him, possessing a quiet intensity that made her desperate to see what fire lay beneath the surface of his polished exterior. George Michael. Among decades of dazzling encounters, Cher recalls George Michael as a different kind of temptation. Their paths crossed at exclusive music events and private parties in the 1980s, where his quiet presence made a room feel electric without him saying a word. George was pure silk, smooth, polished, and so damn beautiful, a man whose very being drew eyes and hearts alike. His voice carried a secret power. Rich, tender, and aching, it made every song feel like a confession meant only for her. Insiders whispered that a simple laugh from him could feel like a kiss without touch, stirring feelings Cher rarely allowed herself to admit. Beneath his calm and almost shy exterior, there was a palpable heat, a restraint that only amplified the desire he sparked. The real temptation lay in what he didn't give away. Cher imagined him leaning close, whispering the lyrics of Careless Whisper in her ear. And she confessed she wouldn't have lasted a second. His power came from subtlety, from holding back, from making every glance and every word feel loaded with possibility. Unlike the wild and chaotic temptations before him, George offered a quiet, smoldering intensity that was impossible to resist. There was something almost painful in his allure, a beauty so refined it made her long to break the composure he carefully maintained. Insiders say that even a fleeting interaction with George left her thinking of forbidden possibilities, the kind of desire that lingers long after the encounter ends. George Michael's temptation was elegant, restrained, and utterly magnetic. Proof that intensity does not always roar. Sometimes it simmers quietly, leaving the most unforgettable burn. The final name on the list is a figure with fire in his veins, a rock star and preacher who didn't just sing, but commanded. Possessing a conviction so intense it was the single most tempting thing about him, making her confess she would have happily burned for that passion. Bono. Among all the legendary figures who tempted Cher, Bono, the legendary frontman of, stood apart. Cher admitted privately that she wanted to be converted, to surrender to whatever intensity he radiated. According to music insiders and Hollywood gossip, their first real encounter happened at a charity gala in Los Angeles. Bono, already famous for his passionate performances and political activism, was struck by Cher's bold presence and fearless charisma. Cher, in turn, was intrigued by Bono's intensity, charisma, and the sense of purpose he carried, both on stage and off. The two reportedly shared hours of conversation that went beyond small talk, discussing music, fame, and even the power of using celebrity influence for social causes. His command over the stage was undeniable. Every lyric he sang seemed meant for her alone. Every glance, a private message. Rumors hint that Cher was captivated not just by his voice or looks, but by the raw conviction behind every word. It was that belief in himself and in every song that created a temptation unlike any other. She imagined what it would feel like if he put that same passion into her life, a fantasy so intense it made restraint impossible. Bono's allure was built on power and fire. The danger lay in the intensity he carried, a force that could sweep over anyone unprepared. Cher confessed that if he had taken off his glasses and whispered something low and rough in her ear, she would have gone willingly, halo or no halo. His temptation was absolute, a mix of devotion, danger, and raw energy that left her imagining flames she would have happily walked into. What do you think of Cher's list of irresistible temptations? Which of these legendary encounters surprised you the most? Share your thoughts in comments below.